Welcome. My name is Nolan Lebovitz. I am the rabbinic intern at Sinai Temple in Los Angeles. Welcome to the Beit Midrash at Conservative Yeshiva in Jerusalem. This is my great Tanakh teacher, Vered Hollander-Goldfarb. Welcome. Thank you very much for participating in this class.
Thank you.
And the class is called the Season of Strength. We're creating a series of videos connecting the strength of Chanukah to the strength of Purim within the Jewish people. So Vered prepared a shiur based around several of the psukim, several of the sentences of text from Megillat Esther, from the actual text that we read on the holiday of Purim.
So, Nolan, every year as I read through the Megillah, I come to the point where Mordechai refuses to bow down to Haman. And it bothers me. I'd like to take a look at the verses themselves, and after that, see what the questions are that come out of it, and how do we solve it. So here we are, on the page of the story of Esther. It's in the 3rd chapter. Haman has just come to power, and the king has instructed everybody to bow down to him. So in the Hebrew it reads as follows: V'chol avdei hamelech asher b'sha'ar hamelech kor'im u'mishtachavim leHaman ki chen tziva lo hamelech. And so all the king's servants who are at the king's gate are bowing down, prostrating themselves before Haman, for the king has so commanded concerning him. U'Mordechai lo yichra ve'lo yishtachaveh. But Mordechai, he won't bow down, he won't prostrate himself. You go a little bit further, and it says, his reasoning, Ki higid lahem asher hu Yehudi. For he said to them, I am a Jew. That's a lousy excuse. What happens because of this entire story? What is Haman's reaction to Mordechai's refusal to bow down? He says, okay, let's punish not only Mordechai, but his entire nation. If he is a Jew, let's punish all the Jews. Now, I don't know what bothers you about it, but I know that it bothers me. You know, you can bow down a little bit now and then, and not put your entire people at risk. Mordechai seems like a very stubborn person. You know, Mordechai, have a little bit less of an ego, and don't put all of us at risk.
But and I don't mean to cut you off, but Mordechai is the first Jew, I already gave away the punchline, he's the first character, basically, the first person of the entire Tanakh, of the entire Bible, that's introduced as a Yehudi, as a Jew. Even before his name, it says there was a Yehudi, in the fortress of Shushan lived a Jew. This is chapter 2, verse 5, right? So, Ish Yehudi ba Shushan habira u'shmo Mordechai. So even before his name, this is a very important part of his character, is that he's Ish Yehudi. And this is the excuse that he gives, is that he can't bow down because he's Ish Yehudi.
Correct. I think you're 100% on the mark there. Mordechai is not playing the game. And I don't think that we're the only ones who have been bothered by this issue of what is going on here with Mordechai. Why are we risking the entire Jewish people for an idea? The question is what the idea was. And I think it affects how we read the entire story of Esther and the story of Purim. And so I'd like to take a look at the Midrash. And the Midrash exists in a collection called Esther Rabbah, collection of Midrashim. And it focuses on the very verse that you brought, on the Ish Yehudi. Mordechai is first and foremost a Yehudi, a Jew. Yehudi. Lama nikra shmo Yehudi, v'halo yemini hu? Why call him a man from Judah, a Jew, when he's actually from the tribe of Benjamin? Now, we have his lineage, and Mordechai has quite a nice lineage. He seems to be from the family of Saul. Nice aristocracy here. Why is he called a Jew, somebody from Judah, if he is indeed from the tribe of Benjamin? Now, the simple historic answer is he came from the kingdom of Judah. But let's leave that aside for a moment, because that's not what the rabbis are getting at.
That's not fun.
No.
Right.
The rabbis answer the following: לפי שייחד שמו של הקדוש ברוך הוא כנגד כל באי עולם. האדמה לא יכרע ולא ישתחווה. Okay. Since he demonstrated the uniqueness, yichud, of Kadosh Baruch Hu, of God, to all the people of the universe. Because it says he will not kneel, he will not bow down, and he will not prostrate himself. And I'll give you a little aside there. I think that we can learn something about their accent of Hebrew. Because they heard Yehudi and Yehudi very similar. And so they probably had a nice het.
Heavy Sephardic accent.
Beautiful. But they're playing with these two words, and they're saying, you know, we shouldn't exactly read a Jew, we should read somebody who's unique, somebody who brings about God's uniqueness. And their proof? The verse that we read in the beginning, I told you bothered me. So here is their explanation. Was he just trying to pick a fight? Was he picking a fight, intentionally going against the king's orders? Ela, rather, כשציווה אחשוורוש, the king Achashverosh, when he commanded להשתחוות להמן, חקק עבודת כוכבים על ליבו, ונתכוון כדי שישתחוו לעבודת כוכבים. At that point, Haman drew an image of an idol on his chest with the intention of having everybody bow down to an idol. וכשהיה רואה המן שאין מרדכי משתחווה לו, נתמלא חמה. And so when Haman realizes that Mordechai is not bowing down to him, he was filled with fury. ומרדכי אומר לו, יש אדון המתגאה על כל גאים. But Mordechai says to him, and here's a conversation that we don't actually have, but the rabbis filled in for us.
Right.
There is a master who's above everybody who feels that he's high and mighty. האח אני מניחו ואשתחווה לעבודת כוכבים? How can I possibly leave him and bow down to the image of an idol? ולפי שייחד שמו של הקדוש ברוך הוא נקרא יהודי. Since he demonstrated the uniqueness, the yichud of God, he's called a Yehudi. Yichud, Yehud. Lomar Yehudi, Yechidi. Yehudi, he's the only one, the unique one. Not that Mordechai is unique, God is unique. That's the Midrash.
Which isn't far-fetched, because if you imagine what the rabbis imagined the Kohen Gadol wearing some kind of plate on his chest. The rabbis imagined, like we imagine whenever you go see a movie about Robin Hood or something like that, you imagine Middle Ages, the kings and the representatives of the kings all wear something in their garb that has some kind of insignia on it. And that insignia should be worshipped just like the king, because it's a representative of the king.
But you know what's fascinating? It's not only their imagination. They actually had a very solid textual ground for what they were saying. They were able to do in their heads what we need a book for. We use a concordance.
Right.
When we open the concordance and we check out bowing down, the
Right.
ishtachavot,
Right.
we discover that people do bow down to other people. You know, that's just part of the world.
Abraham bowed down to other people. This was a way to express. This was a way to shake people's hands in biblical times.
Absolutely. And as you said, you know, this is what you need to do in the world. But the combination of lichroa vel'ishtachavot, of both kneeling and bowing down, that is only used to worship God. Fascinating. In other words, the rabbis knew perfectly well that as soon as they saw those two words, which we, by the way, have in Alenu, Anu Korim u'Mishtachavim, as soon as they saw lichroa vel'ishtachavot put together, they said, this wasn't about Haman's ego or Mordechai's ego. This was a fight about who is God and who am I.
Who should we worship?
Absolutely. That puts the whole story in a very different light. And so this is where, this is where we take one step with the story. We have other stories like it. In other words, Purim doesn't end this kind of a struggle for Jews. We don't go very far until we get to Chanukah. get to Chanukah, and what do we have? What's the story of Chanukah? And if you wish, you also have it on the page. Right? It's the story of the Maccabees. What are they fighting about? It seems, they got world culture coming to the doorstep. What could be better?
With Hellenism.
With Hellenism, yes.
Greek culture.
Absolutely. Greek culture had a lot to offer. Let's be real. Our rabbis took plenty out of Greek culture and used it. So why are they fighting? What is it that it's all about? I think that we're talking about a very problematic situation that Jews found themselves in time and again when they were up against other cultures. Where do we draw that line? Where do we say, up to here, I'm willing to adopt and take into my Judaism. And from this point on, I'm compromising my Judaism and I'm no longer willing to take it. Mordechai drew that line. Even if it wasn't clear to us, it was very clear to the rabbis that that's what he was doing. He drew that line and said, even if it means risking all of us, what are we if we're not Jews? Move a few centuries further on, you add the story of Purim, Chanukah. Here we go again. Matityahu says, with all the wonderful things you can offer me, if I am not a Jew, if I don't have my God, where am I? Where is my line? How far am I willing to go?
And I think that that's just, in the actual text of Maccabees chapter 2, that's why Matityahu refuses to bow down. He refuses to bow down. He won't allow other people to bow down as well. And it's interesting because those two words that you so astutely picked up on, V'chol avdei hamelech, this is now out of Megillat Esther, chapter 3, verse 2, V'chol avdei hamelech asher b'shar hamelech, korim u'mishtachavim. Then it's so important, those two words, they come back and they have to say the negative. Mordechai lo yichra v'lo yishtachaveh. He doesn't do either. God forbid he does either one of them. And I think that discussing strength, you have a situation where every day we pay homage to the decisions that Matityahu and Mordechai made, because in the Aleinu prayer, when we say Aleinu l'shabeach, it's on us, right? After all these prayers to God, after and you can look at it, after all the holidays that the Torah commands, we have these two holidays, these two outlining holidays of Chanukah to Purim, this time period. That's Aleinu. Right? God doesn't appear in the texts that we have. It's Aleinu. It's on us to accomplish these tasks, these holidays. And only in the Aleinu prayer do we see these two words come back. And that's why it says, Ve'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Right? The only time we will kore u'mishtachaveh is lifnei hakadosh baruch hu, in front of the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He. And so thank you for bringing that, and thank you for pointing this out to us, because I think we encounter it every day at the very end of the service in the Aleinu, and we encounter it every day in our lives in terms of how to be Ish Yehudi, how to be a Jew, and at the same time how to be a person of strength that stands apart, and at the same time can be somebody who functions in society like Mordechai, like Matityahu and all of his sons. How do we function in society and at the same time be proud Jews? Thank you very much for your time. And,
we should just be Yehudim.
Yehudim. Chag Sameach. Have a happy Purim.
Chag Sameach.